Okay. And I guess the first thing to do here, and I'm actually sitting in as chairman today. And the first thing to do is introductions. Again, my name was Doug Anderson, and then we'll go down the line with Tom next.
Tom Browder, Community Council Secretary.
Bruce Riemann, community member.
Bruce
Tagg.
Reedy, council member.
Sharon Tagg, council member.
And Karen, is your audio up?
I think it is. Hi, Karen Miskey from the Clearwater Resource Council. I'm on a tablet. And I can't tell if my video is working or not.
We don't see you. We can hear you though.
Can you see me now?
No.
I don't think the video is working.
Well, something's
Okay.
coming in here.
Is it working now?
No, it's just black screen. But
Huh.
we can continue here. Sherry?
Yep, I'm Sherry Thompson and hang on, rename, I left you inadvertently. I am the 4th of July girl today.
Okay. Jordan. Jordan, you're muted.
Oh,
Here
you
we
think
go.
I'd be doing enough Zooms? I'd have this figured out by now. I'm Jordan Lyons. I'm the housing specialist at Missoula County. Thank you for having me.
Great. And Julia?
Yeah, so I'm Karen and I are both with the Clearwater Resource Council.
Okay. And Henry?
Yep, Henry Netherland from the Pathfinder.
Thank you. Claire?
Claire Muller, Seeley Lake Community Foundation.
And either Bruce or Karen. Riemann?
Yeah, I introduced myself. I was the second one, Doug. You weren't paying
Oh,
attention.
I guess I'm not. Sorry. Then did I miss anybody else? Karen and somebody. Rick? Okay, so first on the agenda is Sherry Thompson. She's going to talk to us about the parade and 4th of July.
Yeah, the 4th of July. Hang on, let me grab my poster. I was doing something else, as most people probably are. So I get my times and things right. So. Okay, so the 4th of July, as you can see, is moving along. There'll be the annual pancake breakfast at the fire hall from 7 to 11:30 with their parking attendants. This year we have the Seeley Lake Market will be part of the day. It's because it's a Sunday, so from 10 to 2, you can go to the Seeley Lake Market at the Community Foundation. Then the noon, the Mission Bible Fellowship will be holding their annual pig roast. The parade lines up, this poster says A, but it's wrong, but anyway, lines up down B Street at 1 p.m. The theme is celebrate, I can't believe, celebrate freedom. Yes, it is on the poster. And there will be no judging this year, but there will still be some registration just for insurance purposes and a signed paper that said you understand that throwing candy from floats and vehicles in the parade are not allowed under our permit, but that doesn't mean somebody can't walk or drive down the side closer to the fog line, which is the white line, and throw candy from there. Also, we want to make sure that everyone who participates understands that the parade is a G-rated event and no unfortunate wording will be allowed. And then there will be the duck race. They are planning on it at this moment. Says it's tentative, but they are planning on it. And then down at Lindy's, Code Red will be playing from 6 until the fireworks. And then at 10:15, 10:30ish, the fireworks will go off. You can donate a variety of ways. You can send a check to the Chamber of Commerce. You can go to the posters, which will be up tomorrow, hopefully. And there is a QR code where you can just point your phone at it if you have the QR code app and donate that way. Or you can go to the Chamber website and use their donation site. Questions?
So as far as the parade goes, that's pretty much like previous years, except for last year.
It pretty much is. No judging is probably the biggest issue from the past. No water cannons, no burnouts, but those are all been pretty traditional.
Sherry, this is Karen Johnson. Where are the fireworks going to be from the Lindy's Bay or from out in the middle, from the lake somewhere? Has that been decided?
Yes, Lindy's Bay.
Lindy's Bay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the campgrounds are not open after 10 o'clock for visitors, people not camping. And so there's no way for people to watch them anyplace but from Lindy's Bay. Or Johnson Ridge from our house.
Okay, any other questions for Sherry? Well, that sounds like it's going to be a good time. Next guest then is Karen Miskey with Clearwater Resource Council and Julia Schwager. They're going to tell us about hazardous fuels.
Thank you, Doug, and thanks for putting us on the agenda on relatively short notice. I think everyone knows who CRC is and what we do as an organization, but just in case, just one little blurb about who we are. CRC was created almost 2 decades ago to protect the natural resources of the Clearwater Valley. We work on a lot of different terrestrial and aquatics programs in the valley. And Julia tonight will be telling you a little bit about our fuels mitigation work and what we're doing and how we'd like to partner a little bit more closely with the Community Council. But I'm here tonight to talk to you about our relatively recent watershed planning work. We got a grant from the Bureau of Reclamation about 6 months ago to undertake a watershed restoration project. And in large part, we're doing this plan to essentially identify and prioritize projects for restoration that can be done over the next 3 to 5 years that can help improve the water quality and aquatic habitat. So we'll be having 2 public meetings, one in August and one in September, to talk about what our initial research has shown so far. And we're hoping that we can get the input of both the Community Council and the community more broadly. So we'd like to pass that information along to you, and hopefully you can share it to the best of your ability so that we get full representation and input at the upcoming stakeholder meetings in August and September.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, then I'll turn it over to Julia.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of here to just quickly tell you a little bit about the fuel programs that CRC offers, kind of in the hopes that, you know, if anybody in the community has questions or comes to you, any of you wondering about what they can do on their properties, that you could then pass them along to CRC. And so the first kind of big thing that CRC does in terms of fuel mitigation is we have a cost share program. So if a landowner would like to make their home a little more fire-wise by thinning the forest around their home or on their property, CRC will help offset, I think 25% up to 50% of those costs. And so the landowner would hire their own or hire a contractor or a logger, kind of have a contract with them, and then also have one with CRC. And after all the work gets done, kind of to spec, CRC will come in, verify that it was done correctly, and then cut the landowner a check. So that's one really, really cool service that we have. And then the second one is a free wildfire preparedness home assessment. And so this is when either a CRC employee or a DNRC employee comes to your home, and you can be there or you cannot be there, it doesn't matter. But they can do a walkthrough with you and show you all the parts and pieces on your property that are either, could be worked on to improve your home's wildfire resiliency, or things that you're already doing well. And then that would goes into a database that wildland firefighters can then access, which is really valuable from their perspective, because they can look and see what's going on in this neighborhood where a fire might be, and it makes their job a little easier and a little safer. And so those are kind of the two big fuels pieces that we do. And yeah, we were just hoping that if anybody ever comes to you guys or you have an idea for ways that we can partner, that you could just get in touch with someone at CRC and make that work happen.
Right. What's the coverage area? I mean, where in the valley does CRC operate?
I think anywhere in the Clearwater Valley, is that correct, Karen?
That is correct. And generally speaking, we reimburse up to 900 an acre, depending on the total cost per acre. Julia, do you want to talk a little bit for a minute about the upcoming education and outreach events we have scheduled or pending?
Yeah, so we have a fuels talk at Placid Lake Campground on July 15th at 7 p.m. That'll be kind of a fire and forest ecology / fuels talk. And then we're also going to be doing, we're working on getting the dates pinned down for a Double Arrow neighborhood tour, looking at properties that have been treated and those that haven't, and how they fare, 10 years down the line, and that kind of thing. And then we're also planning a kind of another fuel reduction workshop / chipper demonstration day, where we'll do some work on a local property to make it a little more fire resistant or resilient, and kind of teach landowners how they can do some of the work themselves too. And that also, we're working on the date for that.
Okay. Quick question. So as far as fuels reduction goes, so if somebody has a larger property, can they do part of it 1 year, part of it another year, or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's an option. I know a few people talked about doing it that way, just because it can be a big, bigger cost up front. So it's definitely possible to break it up.
Is there a maximum amount of dollars or a maximum amount of acreage that qualifies?
I don't believe so, Karen.
Oh, there's no maximum, but the only thing that would, I guess, present some challenges right now is that we are running short on dollars. So we are hoping, fingers crossed, for another significant infusion of funding here in the next 2 to 3 months. So assuming we're successful with one of our larger pending grants, we should have our funds replenished here shortly.
Okay. Any questions for either Karen or Julia?
Julia, I have one about, so the two programs, the cost sharing and the home inspection, are pretty widely used by those of us who live up on Double Arrow Ranch. But we've got a lot of new folks that are moving into the area. What is the like for fuels reduction, do they start with CRC? And then, I mean, we've got a fire safety committee, and so that would be one question. The other is number of folks have had DNRC out, but do you want us to contact CRC first and then you're the liaison with DNRC? What are your recommendations for those?
Yeah, I think filling out an application for the cost share program, those are just pretty, those are widely available on the CRC website. And so that might be, that might be a first step, and you could fill out an application and send it to CRC, and somebody will come out and do a site visit and kind of talk about your options there. And so that might be a good first step in terms of the fitting work. And then yeah, with home assessments, you can, either way, but yeah, you can reach out to CRC, and then we work directly with the DNRC for those home assessments. So I guess order doesn't matter so much there.
Okay, thanks.
And one thing I would add, Tom, is that CRC works closely with the Darloa Fire Safety Committee. So generally what happens when we have an application that is in Darloa, we notify Randy so that he has a list of all of the properties that are currently basically approved for fuels mitigation. That way, if one of the property owners calls Randy and says, hey, this guy's cutting down their trees, he can say, well, they're cutting down their trees because they're doing a fuel mitigation project. So we keep the fire safety committee, both Joanne and Randy, abreast of anything that's either pending or ongoing.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, you both, Julia and Karen.
Well, thank you for having us. And I unfortunately have another meeting that's butted up right behind this one. So I'm going to take off early, but thank you so much for having us.
You bet.
Thanks,
We will
Karen.
pass the word, and I'm sure Tom will put it up on the website too.
That is terrific. Thank you. And I will get you the information for the stakeholder meetings as we get them finalized.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Next is Jordan Lyons, a housing specialist with Missoula County Community and Planning Services.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, thank you so much for having me, and see some new faces tonight, and also some folks I've had the chance to meet. So it's great to see everybody. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and what I'm working on, but I'm really hoping we can kind of have a conversation tonight. So I started as housing specialist in February, and prior to that, I've done a variety of different roles relating to housing in Missoula. I worked at Missoula Housing Authority, and most recently I worked at the University of Montana, where I was the director of the ASUM Renter Center. I was an advocate for student renters. And now what I'm working on at Missoula County is I'm working with Eco Northwest, a firm that Missoula County has contracted with to create an affordable housing plan. And so I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of you, because what I've been doing most recently for that, we're in kind of the phase of stakeholder engagement. So I've been connecting with Claire I've spoken to, and Sherry, and Carrie from Mountain Lakes Presbyterian is on our steering committee. So we really appreciate all the help and all the perspective we're getting from Seeley Lake. And what I really wanted to share with you all tonight too is, as part of our stakeholder engagement, that's kind of one tactic, is those one-on-one meetings. And then we also have had, we did our community needs assessment, which is a survey we do each year about different funding priorities. And this year we really beefed up the housing portion of it and asked a lot more questions about housing. And so that's a countywide survey, and we had 887 responses this year, which is the most we've ever had by a lot. So people are really tuned in. So that's great. And we had 41 from Seeley Lake. So did anyone in this group take the survey? All right, cool. You can tell me. No judgment. All right, cool. That's great. That's perfect. And what I thought I'd do is, so we have the report on our website, and I will put the URL in the chat here. And so you can see all this aggregate data for Missoula County. But just for tonight, I just ran the report for just the Seeley Lake respondents. And I thought we could just take a look at that together. But I would love to ask you all, I'll kind of paraphrase a couple questions for it. And I'd love to get your thoughts before I, before I bias you by telling you what your neighbors said. I wonder if, I'll just ask you a couple questions and we can go around, or if people want to just kind of like popcorn answer, we'll get a couple answers on each before we look at the survey. So one of the questions we asked folks, and I want to ask you all tonight, is, in your opinion, what is the most significant housing challenge Missoula County faces?
My opinion would be affordable housing for lower income workers. Seeley Lake in particular doesn't seem to be able to find enough workers for summertime jobs, especially due to the fact that there's no housing.
Right. Anybody else want to add to that or have another thought too?
I can add to that a little bit. It's not only affordable, but there's a lack of inventory. Even if you could find something that was affordable, you're not going to find anything out here within a driving area. My son is driving all the way from Phillipsburg to Missoula, both he and his wife, because they can't find anything around Missoula.
Wow.
And they could afford to pay pretty good money considering what they're kicking out in driving. So you put that all together, and it doesn't have to be just here. It can be in Missoula too. But it's not only not affordable, but it's, if you do get on a list, the people that own the place say, well, I'm gonna take the highest bidder.
Yeah.
How do you match that? So anyway.
Yep.
You know that I think if there's a bit of, I being the oldest one here today, there's a bit of a change in housing from when I was a child, where often it was multi-generational because that's the way you could afford to live. And someplace along the way, it became where children didn't have to share bedrooms. Everybody got their own room. Every family had their own house. And maybe there needs to be some creativity, at least for a while, about sharing homes. You know, people used to share homes, building things more like that new one they're talking about behind the Presbyterian Church, where everybody has not quite a big hotel room, but similar, but they share cooking quarters. I just think that maybe we need to go backwards a bit. You know, people talk a lot about Mexicans crossing the border and taking over the workforce. Well, we obviously could use a few in Montana, frankly. But those people hunker up together and share living quarters to the betterment of a group of people. And so, you know, that's just my thought on the subject of changing the view of housing.
Sure. All right. I'm going to ask you one.
This is Karen Johnson again. After what Sherry said, I'm not sure I should say what I was going to, but my daughter and her family are moving here and they're going to be living with us until they can find some place in Seeley Lake, because she's going to help me take care of my disabled husband. But also, I noticed on the Seeley Lake Facebook page, there's a new teacher looking for a place to rent and not having availability of a place for her to rent. And then there was also, I can't remember if it was a mother or father and a 12-year-old son that were looking for a place and have not been able to find any place. So I would have to agree with Bruce that the inventory is severely lacking for options.
Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely appreciate all your input on that. And I want to just put a little different lens on it, and especially would love to hear from folks who haven't had a chance to answer the first question. What do you think is the top priority for housing initiatives for Missoula County as a whole? Like, if Missoula was going to do one thing, what could we do to help the situation?
Well, so Jordan, here's something maybe, and I don't know if it's state or county, but remember some years ago, the city of Missoula started allowing those small dwellings on existing city lots. And I forget the name of it. I think it had a name, but you see quite a few of those around the city. Could something like that, if inventory, it certainly is up here, there are no places, is that even in the realm of possibility?
Yeah, so like a tiny home or like a
Yeah.
townhome exemption. Yeah, yeah.
I think he's talking about ADUs.
Yeah, or like an ADU, like a smaller unit on the same lot with a house or.
Don't we run into the same problem with septic? You know, start adding bedrooms or start adding additional dwellings onto a lot and your septic isn't large enough. And of course, we don't have a sewer, so it's just back to the same thing that lots have to be a certain size and there's just not enough of them. So once you start purchasing a lot that's large enough, you're just pricing yourself out of that affordable market again.
Not to offend the Double Arrow crowd, but you people are not within the sewer district and you have the large lots and the opportunity, but the covenants preclude that, or multi-family dwellings. So it's not, the burden isn't or shouldn't maybe be on just those people in the inner Seeley Lake location.
And that's something I need to learn more about. And I would love to follow up with folks here more about the details of that, because I know a bit about the sewer situation, but probably just enough to get me in trouble. So I think I really appreciate all the good dialogue on those questions. And I'm going to put one more link in the chat here. And this is a link to our surveys. That first one I put is, just like the general survey. This one is just Seeley Lake responses. And if I can, I'm going to try to just share my screen and just kind of look at it with you all for a sec. And you all seeing that, my browser?
Yeah. That's
cool.
Yep.
All right. And you can save this link. You can look back at it later or anything like that. And so here's our community needs assessment. And you can see if we were looking at the county-wide, about 2/3 of people came from Missoula. And about 5% were from Seeley Lake, but today we're just looking at Seeley Lake results. And I just want to point out to you all too, like a couple of differences between the county-wide results in Seeley Lake. So we asked, from the list below, select 2 actions you believe should be the top priorities for Missoula County. And so this was like all kinds of things, right, with infrastructure, economic development. And the county and Seeley Lake said increase the supply of housing that is affordable to all income levels. So that was a feeling countywide. And then this was one that was a little bit different. We asked, just like I asked you all, in your opinion, what are the 3 most significant housing challenges Missoula County faces? I didn't want you all to have to rattle off 3 without anything in front of you, but and here the number one was a lack of affordable housing for rent. And for the county-wide results, a lack of affordable housing to buy was just tied with the rentals, and maybe even a little bit higher. But here in Seeley Lake, and this is a non-scientific survey, but people thought rentals were even a little bit higher of a priority than home ownership. And so I was definitely hearing that from you all loud and clear too. And if you all have any questions or comments as I take a look through this, let me know too. And then we had some other results, and if you want to really drill down, you can sure pull up that link and take a look at your own speed. And then we asked, what are the top 3 priorities for housing initiatives for Missoula County as a whole? And so the number 1 here was, and before I have these in order by how popular they were, but initiatives to maintain and or increase the supply of affordable housing. And then we had subsidies to construct housing for low and moderate income households. Did someone have a question? All right. And so I think that was pretty similar to the county. I think one thing that the consultants are really hearing loud and clear is that really the big thing is we really don't have enough supply of housing. And so we have to, it's seeming like it's going to be a big priority to have initiatives to build, help get funds to build subsidized housing, supportive housing, but also to make sure that we are creating like kind of a regulatory environment where people can develop private unsubsidized housing also. And then, you can see here too, we had, we gave people like an open-ended question about housing. And I think we can see a lot of the same themes that you all said too, that, we just don't have housing. We need to get creative. We need to allow smaller buildings. Mother-in-law, that's another name. The mother-in-law apartments is another name for those auxiliary dwelling units or ADUs. And some talk about sewer in here also. And I did want to just share too that one, and then we asked a question about homelessness, which I won't dive into too deep tonight. And I did want to mention too, there was a question that we asked people from the list below, select 2 actions you believe should be the top priorities for Missoula County. And oh, I'm sorry. Pulling up the wrong thing. I wanted to just show you. So yeah, we had some comments about sewer. Many comments mentioned sewer. And on the, oh yeah, sorry, this is the infrastructure. I'm sorry, I kind of got lost in my scrolling here. We had a question about COVID-related assistance. I'm sorry, I'm just flying through this, but I wanted to show you this infrastructure question. Oh yeah, and so and we said for which 2 items from the list below would you prioritize for public infrastructure? And I see that wastewater and water systems, that's a lot more spread out, but that was the highest. And septic improvements was also very high. And probably not surprising, but those are a lot higher here in Seeley Lake than they are in other parts of Missoula. So that's just some kind of news you can use. And like I said, that's not something that we've kind of shared generally, but I wanted you all to be able to see kind of a close in on your community. And again, it's non-scientific, it's 41 respondents. So, it's enough to give you an idea, but, definitely not, not something someone could do their dissertation about or something like that. Do you all have questions for me about the survey results?
Incentives seem to be something that's popped up, but what kind of incentives can the county do that would be anything that would meaningful?
Great question. And I can speak to that just a little bit. So I think the main incentive, the types of incentives we'd be talking about is in zoning, and I'm not a planner, but there's currently Missoula County is working on a zoning update that's mostly for like the area around, close to the city of Missoula. And in some of those areas, they are offering a density bonus for affordability. So, it would be something like, usually you can only have, 1 unit per so many acres, but if you'll agree to, make one affordable, you could have, a certain percentage more. So that would be like the type, if we're talking about incentives, that's probably the type of thing we'd be talking about.
Okay.
Great question.
But I guess,
So-
Gordon,
Go
we
ahead.
don't have any zoning to speak of up in this area. We have some, like the special management area related to the sewer, but I don't know that zoning could open up much up here because I don't know of too many properties that are being impacted by zoning.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's more the infrastructure is more the limitation than the zoning kind of. Is that the were you gonna say something, Claire?
Yeah, but Bruce, go ahead.
I got this piece of paper here. I got it sent to me, and I'll just kind of share it. What do you know about this? It's the Montana Economic Developers Association. Anybody heard about it? Anyway, sewer and water is very, very high on the list. And this is a group of people that can take the recovery funds and apply them to towns, communities, and whatever to help them with these types of assistance. I believe I sent it to all of the members, the council members. Anyway, in there, it has signatures of even Craig Erickson from Great West Engineering. He was one of the engineers working on the sewer system that was here. I'd sure like to see if we could get some of those funds to come here and help. Even if it's smaller, like a lot to lot sewer system to get us going. There's got to be ways to utilize these funds. So
yeah, that's about like the American Rescue Plan funds. Is that what they're talking about?
It works off of that. It's Director Scott Osterman. He's MDOC, and then the ARPA director is Mike Foster. Anyway, if you want, give me your number and I can electronically send it to you.
Sure. Yeah, I will. Let me. I was gonna put that in the chat here too. So here's my phone number and my email is here. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Thank you for bringing that up. Was there anything in those survey results that really surprised anybody here?
No.
So
I've
Go
got
ahead,
a
Claire.
question about NIMBY, Jordan. It's just, I wonder because housing is so hard here and it's so tight, like everybody's been talking about, but also that I wonder if you can speak to how often I feel like then when something does start to get developed, then it's kind of, NIMBY, the not in my backyard, that there's often a lot of resistance, or there can be sometimes resistance. Do you foresee that happening with this process, or do you think it is kind of such a big crisis across the county or wherever, that we might be able to make some things go through?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And I mean, I think, and I can't, and like, I would say that, like everybody has different perspectives and different, solutions they'd like to see and things they're willing to trade and not trade for that, right? And I think that one thing that comes up a lot is we don't want to, that the housing is super important. It's it's really a crisis, but we don't want to, it's one concern among others too. And so we don't want to, we want to be mindful about, quality of life and things like that. But I hope that, by having a really strong process where we really do talk to a lot of people and get a lot of input and feedback before we get out there with a plan. Really hope we'll have a plan that, kind of reflects people's consensus and everybody can, give a little to get a lot kind of. Is that a good answer? So, I think that always happens, and, it's hard to say about, the relative merits of one project or another, but thanks, Claire.
So,
One
Jordan,
thing,
just a hypothetical, but let's suppose that there was some land maybe outside of the special management area related to the sewers, so infrastructure, so it'd be a septic solution, whether today or down the road. And maybe groups like the one you mentioned, Carrie, from Mountain Lakes, and maybe some people from the building community. Would it make sense if there was such a group and let's say a potential project were identified, could we come to the county and get any help? I mean, maybe, speeding up permitting, or if the county attorney's office needs to clarify something, just all those things that could take, they could add a year to a project. And I don't really think we have a year, if we want to. So, and if we did, would it be you that we'd come knocking on, we'd knock on?
Yeah, I mean, I encourage you to, you can definitely get in touch with me, and I would be really glad to just, work with you and see, I'm getting to know everybody around there and what they do. And so I'd be really glad to help kind of make the connections. Great question. And Sherry, did you have a question? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
I did, but I got engaged in Tom's question and my track of mind changed. But I think that to address what Tom is doing, I think that's a valid point of that infill in Seeley is an interesting opportunity, but obviously the wastewater issue is large here. But I'm with Tom. I think if I could pick the one item that would be a help to here is even a written checklist document of the steps it takes to get there. The whole thing is a bit of a mystery And I went to nitrate school with Jim Irvin a couple weeks ago, and I told him the same thing. If you could hand out a brochure that said, here's the steps, people would maybe be able to work their way down through it in a more rational manner. But right now, there is no place you can go that says step 1, step 2, step 3.
As like a, for like community, are you talking about like the steps for like an individual to like develop a project, or like the steps to like resolve the community-wide housing issue?
Well, a housing issue, but let's take the Presbyterian Church. We have a large parcel of land, I'm not volunteering, don't get me wrong. They have a large parcel of land and we could put 2 small houses on it. Okay. Or I own a piece of property, as you are well known, because that's why I came to talk to you. But I came to talk to you, but there is no place that gives you you want to join the community foundation, they hand you a brochure and it says you do this. There's none of that. It's a mystery about how to solve it. It would be really helpful if there was, and I've been to the state DEQ and I've been to the county and I've been everywhere. There is no, not saying it's black and white, but there's no even, here's how you start.
Right. I think that's a great point. Just kind of like a more,
we need a guide. And you start with an engineering plan. Okay, that's what I need to know. But there's no place that said that until I went and talked to Jim. He says you need an engineering firm, you need a guide. But it took going to nitrate school to find out I needed an engineer.
Sure. Right.
So I think that that's one of the hurdles for people who could maybe do, as Tom talked about, infills or what have you, is it's a step-by-step process and the county is aware of it. But as a citizen, I don't think we have a clue.
Sure. Well, that's great input. Do other folks have other comments or questions for me? Great. And so that is that letter. Okay, great. Well, you have my phone number and my email address, and this is not your only opportunity to give input or feedback. So, I did want to give you all to our just the link where you can sign up to get updates about the housing plan. So I will just paste that in here too. But I did just want to encourage you all to please keep in touch with me. And, I know sometimes it's not the easiest to just be on the spot and come up with ideas. So if you think of something later, now's not your only chance. Please just reach out to me anytime and I'd be really glad to chat with you. All right, and there's one more link in there. Sorry to bombard you with so many links, but and that one is the link to sign up for email updates. And thanks, Claire, for putting this in the, I'm usually the person who's Googling things and putting them in the chat. So I'm glad Claire is here to do it while I have to talk. So thank you, Claire. And I know this is a resource that Missoula County's been testing. And I should probably spend a little more time with it too. But yeah, Sherry, maybe you could take a look at that and let me know, because I think they're still kind of beta testing this too. And if you have feedback on that too. Other questions or comments for me tonight?
I left the room for just a minute. What am I going to look at?
Oh, Claire put in the chat this link to MissoulaCounty.build.
Okay,
And I've
Very
heard that, I'm not super knowledgeable about that. I've heard it mentioned, but I know that that's a resource. Maybe that's a little bit like what you're looking for.
well, hallelujah.
Yeah, so thank you, Claire, for pasting that in there.
Thank you.
Jordan, the one thing I would maybe like to see over the next, month or so, if you could, looking across Missoula County, ideally in a more rural area like, Tura, Clinton, Frenchtown, examples of an affordable project, not in the city of Missoula, because they've got a very different dynamic and things going, and could just either summarize it or send that to the council that we could share with folks up here so we could see what it actually looks like, a fourplex out in West Missoula that this much land and, these were the things they went through. I think that a lot of us work well when we see a kind of a case study.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Today I seen it looks like, one of those tough sheds, but it looks
Gordon
like a
Lyons
little house.
talked to about-
And it looked to me like they set it up permanently and they're living in it. Right in
was
town, here, not too far from Don Larson's. So people are getting creative, I guess.
Any other questions for Jordan?
Yeah, one more. I thought Tom's idea just now was really great about an example. I know, Jordan, that there's a big affordable housing world out there and conferences and things like that. Do you know, are there, maybe not just in Missoula County, but is there a rural housing resource or website or world or network or something like that? Because I wonder if that, Seeley is, I think, unique because of the sewer and septic components here. But like Tom is saying, for looking for examples, are there, is there kind of broader case studies of other rural communities that you know of?
Yeah, I know there are. So, the federal government has funding just for, so there's USDA rural development. So that's like kind of a world unto itself of like programs to develop housing. And I think there are, like professional associations, and there's some oriented towards like the Rocky Mountains and mountain towns. And so there are some resources like that to help look at other similar towns. And I could take a look and maybe send you a couple of links on that too in the next couple of days. Great question.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jordan? All right. Well, thank you very much, Jordan.
Thank you for having me. Keep in touch, okay?
You bet. Maybe we'll have you back again here soon. Okay, next we have Claire Muller with the Seeley Lake Community Foundation. She's going to talk about Change Your Pace.
Hello, everybody. Change Your Pace season is here. For the month of June, there's 14 local nonprofits that are raising funds through the Change Your Pace Challenge. We're halfway through, just about today or tomorrow. It runs from June 1st through June 30th. So I've got some numbers and stats on how we're doing so far, but there's 14 groups: Alpine Artisans, Big Blackfoot Chapter of Trail Unlimited, Blackfoot Challenge, Clearwater Resources Council, Missoula Aging Services, Seeley Lake Community Foundation, Seeley Lake Elementary Community Park, the Seeley Lake Historical Museum and Visitor Center, Seeley Lake Rocks, Sila Senchi, the Senior Center, Sparrow's Vine, Swan Valley Connections, Upper Swan Valley Historical Society, and Veterans and Families of Seeley Lake. So nonprofits running the gamut of services for this community, and also with some geographical spread. We've got folks from Condon out to Ovando participating this year. This is the 6th Change Your Pace Challenge. And the Community Foundation helps raise funds for the match fund, which the Change Your Pace Challenge match fund. And that's kind of like a stretch pool, which goes towards all the participating organizations at the end. And so it's an incentive for people to donate to their local nonprofits, knowing that their dollars will grow in impact. Unfortunately, it's not a dollar for dollar match. I wish it were, but we have, so far we've got over $14,000 in the Change Your Pace Challenge match fund, which is really great. I think we're going to be on track for a great year for Change Your Pace, because last year the total at the end was $14,000. So halfway through we're at 14,000. I think we're going to get pretty close to $20,000 this year to give out to all the local nonprofits. And as of this afternoon, over $25,000 has been donated to the 14 participating groups. So right now we're just shy of $40,000 that's been raised through this month-long campaign. So hopefully we'll have another really great year. Last year, the total was $65,000 raised through the Change Your Pace Challenge. And hopefully this is a great way for people to get to support their favorite organizations and have it be easy to donate it with one form to support lots of organizations at once and or the match fund. And a big shout out, thank you to Energy Partners. They are the headlining sponsor of this year's Change Your Pace Challenge again. So grateful to them. And a lot of folks have contributed so far. We've had 100 households donate so far also. There's been about 25 households and businesses that have donated to the match fund to get it to be $14,000 so far. So thank you to everyone for your dollars and for your love of Seeley Lake and our surrounding valleys.
So if somebody doesn't know what to do with their stimulus check or tax refund, who should they contact?
Me.
First, contact Bruce. Then, if there's any left over after Bruce, have them feel free to let me know, and we can get you a brochure. You can donate online through our website, although it's a bit clunky. You have to donate one organization at a time through our website. So I'm looking into better in the future. But hopefully it's a great way to support the greater Seeley Lake area.
And you want to give out your website?
Sure. SeeleyLakeCommunityFoundation.org.
Sounds pretty simple. Okay, that's number one, and then Bruce is number two. Okay.
Need some signs.
Oh, you're right. Thermometers. That was on our list, and you're right. We need to get some thermometers out there for the last couple weeks of the Change Your Pace Challenge. Thank you, Bruce.
Any questions for Claire? Well, it sounds like a fantastic program. Thank you for telling us about it. And tell us again when it ends.
June 30th.
June 30th, end of the month.
The donations need to be in by June 30th.
So don't delay, people, right?
Claire, if you had a poster with a QR code that sent people at least to your website, it would be helpful for people maybe like at the grocery store who went, oh, I need to do that.
That's a great idea. I need to look into how to create a QR code to put on a poster.
Tom Browder is a whiz at it.
Ooh.
Claire, I have an app on the phone. Do you want it to go to probably down into the site for CYP, right?
Yes, maybe I'll talk with you about it later, Tom.
Well, I'll just do one and email it to you, and then you can check it out.
Thanks. Good job, team. Thank you, everybody.
That's networking for you. Okay. Anything else for Claire? Okay, thank you very much. And is Quinn in today? I don't believe so. Anybody? from
Yeah,
the-
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
there's Quinn. Fantastic.
I've been winking in and out because of computer issues, but I'm here.
Okay, what do you got for us, Quinn?
Well, the big thing is after that windstorm last night, we have been crazily busy sawing out roads, sawing out trails, sawing out campgrounds. So we had quite a few trees come down in Big Larch last night, had quite a few trees on the Morel Falls Trail, and then on the road up to it. So had the trail crew sweeping east from Morel Falls and the fire crew out dealing with everything in local here. So the key is we probably have, I would guess, about 3 log truck loads at least in Big Larch that are down. And there were some really lucky people in there. It just missed some campers and missed a pickup by a little bit. We weren't so lucky here at the district. We had one pickup that got hit by a tree. That we're gonna have to replace windows on and send into the body shop. But yeah, we were busy out opening everything back up after that thunderstorm yesterday. So other things going on. I'm sure everybody sees all the orange trees scattered around. We're working on the RIDX, what I call RIDX project, rice insect and disease. Trying to put together a salvage to deal with a lot of the bug kill that's happening. And it's starting to spread into town pretty prevalently too. So folks up in Double Arrow, if they start seeing their Doug fir fading, they probably should just take them down, I'm thinking. Because, you know, it's normal to have beetles after a fire, but when the fire line is 40 miles long, that's a different problem. So we're diligently working on that. And I know I've been working with Kristen quite a bit with DNRC associated lands as well. The West Side Bypass project, the state is working on that right now. I think that will probably go to bid by the end of July. I think there's 7 million feet in that. And then we have somewhere around 1,200 acres of fuel treatment that will follow with that as soon as we get prescriptions for it on our side. So we'll be looking at the forest action plan and some other ways to get that work done with our fire crews and contract crews. Let's see what else. Oh, I was up in the burn today. The one that was right against Double Arrow. Everything looks really good up there. I know it looks really orange in some spots. We did kill some trees, which was part of the prescription. I had a couple people ask me that, did it get away? And I said, no, we did exactly what we said we needed to do up there. A lot of those trees that are showing orange have green tops, so they may probably have coin tosses whether they live or die. But we did knock back the density quite a bit up there. Some merch, but a lot of non-merch up in there as far as that went. The good news is we didn't put a lot of smoke in Seeley Lake, and we got a lot of down nasty jackstraw stuff burnt up and cleaned up there. So right against Double Arrow should be a lot more secured from a fire perspective. We do have blading contracts going on across the forest right now. I think part of the deal is we got to get the trees that blew down on the road out of the way so that they can blade. And there is some mag going down in various places to try and dust abate for this summer. So far, visitation, we are not even close to where we were last year as far as visitation in the campgrounds. But what we're seeing is a lot of people have moved to dispersed sites. And I think that's probably a COVID thing, is people kind of reform their family groups, and they're a little bigger than what our campgrounds can hold in a lot of cases. So they're they're moving to more dispersed sites, because I know those sites were extremely busy Memorial Day. And I haven't gotten a report from this weekend yet, but I know that it looks like ICP's getting lines out the front and down the side, so that's always a good thing when you're seeing more business in town. And then Lindy's parking lot is full. So they're all coming through town, so the reservation system's working very nicely in River Point. Everything else is fairly is first come, first served. Lakeside, some of that work that the DOT did last year, this year with that, some of our moisture has created a slough that's got part of the campground closed. So that continues to work with DOT to try and get that done and cleaned up. But I know that was a lot in a very short period of time, but do you guys have anything for me?
Quinn, do I understand you to say that those trees that are dying on the west side of Salmon are part of this bug kill thing?
Yep, they're Doug fir bark beetles and they're spreading rapidly across the landscape. Faster than I can keep up with them, Sherry.
And I also sent you 2 personal messages if you can look.
Oh, okay.
In chat.
I'll look.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Quinn, Bruce, this is a little off the subject, but we got our numbers in off the trail counters and for the last winter. And we increased visitation or use by 9,000.
Oh, good.
So we're at 24,000 a year.
Yeah, I think the visitation's up. It's just, they're kind of moving around and resettling a little bit.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else for Quinn? All right, well, thank you very much. And hopefully we have a smoke-free summer.
I wouldn't bet on that. I mean, I wouldn't say that we're in that bad a shape here locally. We're pretty wet yet, but everywhere else is really dry. So you know how it goes. We could have fires in Canada or fires in Washington and we're going to get smoke. But the forecast is for an active fire season.
Gwen, I just have a quick question back to the beetle kill. I've had a couple folks come into the visitor center and ask about that west side of Salmon Lake where you can start to see the beetle kills are kind of circular. And the question usually is, well, is anyone going to do anything about it? And is that all Forest Service? What's the status of that?
There's most of the stuff that you're seeing with the orange trees in it is Forest Service. The stuff, let's see, the stuff across the lake, you know, as you're coming down off the hill and down towards the lake on your right hand side. So that would be state over there. So that's Fish, Wildlife and Parks, I believe. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Scott to see if he's got any plans going on for that. But I have from Rice Ridge all the way to McCabe Creek included in this RIDEX project that I'm working on. And it's moving relatively fast by comparison, by Forest Service standards. So the next one would be Cooper's. And then if there's anything left, we'll get to Salmon. And Sherry, I didn't get your messages.
I'll resend them.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for Quinn from anybody? Questions? Great, well, thank you very much, Quinn.
Yep, Sorry I was late. Took me a while to get out of Horseshoe Hills today.
No problem. That's it for the speakers. And do we have public comment on non-agenda items next? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Nothing. Okay.
Um,
Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I just want, I'm your new sewer board member. And so, let me turn around. I'm the new sewer board member, put my finger in the door hinge side and slammed it. But we are having the protest meeting. We moved the monthly meeting to the 28th, which is a Monday. And people may Zoom it and talk about the new assessment policy. Or they may, if they're non-Zoomy people, they may come to the barn and I will be there and Tom's going to help me hook up a virtual meeting there.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody else on any topic? No. Okay, so old business is an update on the speed limit signs.
Okay. I talked to Shane Stacks again with Public Works. He had ordered in some radar feedback signs, and he said that as soon as he got some in, he would get them up here so that we could get them in at the 25-mile-an-hour zones. And hopefully we can keep them, you know, as long as he doesn't need them. So it isn't a purchase, and it's not a permanent sign, but at least it should help us out through the summer.
Okay.
I did have one go back, Doug. Just to your signs thing reminded me. We just put in an order under Great American Outdoor Act for like $50,000 of new signs. So all of the signs that are busted and faded, and primarily the ones along that 83 corridor, and then like out to Cooper's Lake, some of those, we'll start with those and then be shining some of the other ones up in the backcountry as we go. But that was one thing I forgot to mention.
Oh, that's great news. A lot of those have been missing for a long time.
Yep.
Good to hear that. Okay, thanks, Bruce, on that.
Gwen, if any of those are very historic, you could drop them at the barn.
Okay. When we start replacing them out, I'll get with you, Sherry.
Thanks.
Okay, that's it for old business. So we're moving on to new business. We have a community council bylaws revision.
Yeah, so on that one, Doug, and the others on the council, sometime early this year, the county commissioners decided the council bylaws needed to be updated. And it's the 6 or 7 page document. To be totally honest, seems a bit much for a community council, but I did sit in on a 1-hour Zoom meeting with Lori Heyer, I think, who's kind of the business manager for the commissioners. And a few days ago, I think Lee Bridges from East Missoula and was on it, and a couple of the other community council folks. And we made a few minor suggestions. So Lori put all that together. I've got a copy. I'll send it around to the council. She said it's not like something needs to be done yesterday. And I said, it's real not meet in the too busy summer months because people don't show up. We'd probably get to it in September. So I'll put it on the agenda for September.
Okay, and then are those in a final form then? Is something that we can
Yeah, they're in a final form. Just make sure any location references are to Seeley Lake and not Missoula
Mhm.
County.
Okay, good. And then the next item is the Health Department letter of support request, which was sent out to board members earlier. Want to say anything about that as well,
Well,
Tom?
You remember Jim Irvin, who's the water quality person in the environmental section of City County Health, was with us last month, and he got a little bit of pressure, I suspect, I think, from some of the folks up here. But they have applied for some funds from the Montana Bureau of Mines and I think Geology to do a water quality study in Seeley Lake. And, you know, we know from some of the sewer related things that we've read, it's always been what, there are only 2 or 3 or 4 wells that have been there forever. So if you read that, the actual application, it's to get money to do a thorough water study of our area. And Jim sent Jack a message before I went up to Alaska saying, could we do a letter of support? And if you look in the back of that document, it's got letters of support from Clearwater, from CRC, from I don't know who else, a bunch of organizations. So I think the idea is that if we all think it's a good use of the money, we'll get the grant. I think Quinn maybe the Forest Service wrote, DNRC. There were a lot of letters of support. So I drafted one. I don't really know how to write letters of support. So I said, well, we support it. But if there are any, I suppose we should vote if we're going to do this.
Yeah, the letter looks like it was drafted perfectly to me. So is any discussion? I guess we should. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I move that we approve the letter.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And any discussion at all? Okay, I think it's a fine letter, but all those in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? That sounds like it passes to me.
Can I ask a question? After the
bet.
fact, I figured I wouldn't interfere with your vote. Does anybody know, maybe Julia might know, is this, because isn't CRC doing some watershed planning and reporting also? Is this going to be complementary, or does anybody know if this is going to be a kind of a standalone report, or if
Well,
those two efforts will be
actually,
joint?
that's a good question, because one of my neighbors here is involved in the CRC one. They were both doing it. They have now supported this one as well, because for this particular thing, CRC feels, let's speak with one voice. They may still be looking at some broader water quality studies like core samples out of Salmon Lake. But I think, in fact, Karen Miskey had a letter in the back of that doc supporting this one.
The Seeley Lake Sewer District has been doing some testing, but has really been marginal in its scope. And this is going to broaden the scope. If you go back to the 1993-96 studies, it even shows that up at the airport, there's pollution and an issue. And even the district does not include, I don't know what the phase is over there on Morel Road of the Double Arrow. They're actually still part of that infrastructure. And so the idea is to make a global larger study. It's a 10 square mile area that will include across the river and part of the Double Arrow up by the airport to really get a really good picture of what the situation is and maybe eliminate areas where there have been some concern.
Sounds good. Next item. Approval of minutes and secretary's reports. I think we all got that in our inbox today too. I would entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make that a motion.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? And that carries. Fantastic. Treasurer's report. I did not see a treasurer's report in my inbox. Was there one sent out? Did I just-
No, since Sally's out, I guess I can just reflect in the minutes, there was no treasurer's report, but you'll probably see an email update when she gets back.
Okay, so there's nothing to do on that. It's it for the meeting. Is there anything else anybody has to say? And that's it. Then I guess we are adjourned. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks. See
Thanks,
everybody
Zach.
later.
Thanks for chairing.
All right, thank you. Everybody take care and we'll see you all in a couple of months.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everyone.
Good night.